welcome back to my channel. This is Sew Grow with me. So in this video, we are going to be putting together a very basic beginner's sewing kit. So if you do not have really any sewing supplies yet, you're looking to get into sewing, you can just watch this video and I'll show you some things that I have that you might want to put in your kit. Some tools will be able to fit in here, some things won't, but there are things that I think will work with you as you continue to learn to sew. If you hear something in the background, that's the cat's food coming out of their feeder. But yeah, let's get into it. Now, let me preface this by saying I was cutting out a project recently, so my sewing box was a little messy. Okay, it's a lot messy, and that's where the cat scratched me. Yeah, it's a lot messy, but it's okay. It's been worse. Let's just say that it's been worse. But I want to show you some things that I have in here to give you an idea of what you might want to have in your own sewing kit. Just take a glance over it. I got some buttons. I have some, of course, needles from my sewing machine, some thread, some bobbins. I just got some like pins up here, markers. This is an invisible zipper foot. Well, 3 different kinds. And a regular zipper foot here. Then I got like marking pins. These are tailor's chalk, scissors, buttons, measuring tape, all that kind of stuff down there. And what I did for myself was I made a smaller kit with a storage box. When I don't really want to use this one, then I have this one. The only thing that can't fit in here is some scissors. You can probably fit like a small pair of scissors in here. Maybe in this area, like the school scissors. But they won't really work for cutting fabric, so yeah. But I just put some of the same things in here. Got some tape if I need to fix a pattern, some hand needles, tailor's chalk. I got some sewing needles down there at the bottom, a pencil. Over here, this is like a tracing wheel, and this is some tracing paper I made myself with some chalk, with some pastels that I had. They're the dry pastels, not the oil pastels that we would use in art class. Again, another thing that I made my own tracing paper. These are some seam clips, and these washers here I use as pattern weights, but I'm going to go through that. So some things that I think you should put in your very own beginner's sewing kit. One essential, obviously, that you are going to need. And let's actually get them out before I start. If I can get out. I'm going to pull a few things out of here. I put them all the way back at the bottom. Why did I do this? As you can see, there's a lot that's going on in this sewing kit. It literally has everything. Everything! Okay, here we go. What I suggest you'll first need is some needles, hand sewing needles. If you're good with hand sewing, then using the sewing machine it shouldn't be too difficult for you. It'll feel like a breeze because hand sewing, of course, is very tedious. So you'll still need hand needles even if you use the sewing machine, you know, to sew up hems, sew on buttons and things like that. So a good set of sewing needles. Secondly, I believe you'll need some pins, and these are dressmaker pins. Now these are mixed up, but they're different kinds of dressmaking pins. These are the basic dressmaking pins, like the little small silver ones. I also have in here ballpoint pins, and these are the ones with obviously like that on the top of them, but in particular it's the ones that are matte colored in there. So they have different kinds for different types of fabric, but just a basic thing of dressmaker pins. Next, I would suggest that you have some type of either pin plate like this one. Now this is a pen plate and it's magnetic, so it will catch all of your pens when they drop on the floor. Here's why there's some on the bottom. I have dropped pens on the floor so many times, but it will hold your pens. It's for holding your pens like a pin cushion. If you don't want to get that, you can always get a pin cushion. And I got this one from like Family Dollar or Dollar Tree actually. And hopefully you don't hear the background. The TV is on in the living room and the cat just came in. Yeah, but either one of these will be great. But this one is great because it's magnetic, so you don't have to worry about again losing those pens and not being able to find them. You can just wave it around on the floor and it'll keep your pens and they won't fall off. So I like this one. Next, you need a good pair of scissors. Now, you want to get a pair of scissors that are just for your fabric. These will just be for fabric, okay? Use for fabric only. And you want to then have, these weren't, I don't think originally made for fabric, but they work well for cutting fabric for me anyway. Fiskars is a good brand, Gingers, and they have other brands as well for a good pair of fabric shears. But you don't have to spend a whole lot of money on them. But you want to use a separate pair of scissors for cutting fabric and another one for cutting paper, because if you cut paper with your fabric scissors, it will dull them over time. So then I have another pair of scissors, and this one is for cutting out paper patterns. So I think you should have those two different pairs of scissors. And these could be just like the little safety scissors that you get from for kids and stuff. So like when you're going shopping for back to school, if you have kids, or during those sales, you can just get a pair of those scissors and use that for your cutting out your patterns. So I get that. Another thing I would have as a basic is a measuring tape. A measuring tape. So yes, this one was a measuring tape for, is this the one? It's not this one. But yeah, you can get these. I think I got this one from Dollar Tree or Family Dollar as well. They have these in there and they don't cost much money. Like $1 or something. Yeah, this was the one. This is the one from the Beachbody. This is back when people used to buy the Beachbody workouts. My sister had bought one and she never used it. I ended up getting it and I got the measuring tape from it still. So yeah, a measuring tape. Another thing I think you should have is some kind of marking tool so you can mark your patterns effectively. Now, a lot of people, tailors, will use tailor's chalk to mark on their fabric. Now, because we will be using paper patterns a lot, I think it's better to use like a chalk pencil. It's easier to use a chalk pencil or a water-soluble ink marker. These are really great because they last, and then afterwards you can take a wet cloth and you can wipe that away, or you can even throw your whole garment in the washing machine and it'll come right out. So I prefer to use water-soluble ink because it'll come out, but it will last on the mark will last on the fabric, and you don't have to worry about it fading away or possibly being rubbed away like if you used just chalk in some cases. So I do like these. They also have pens that you can use and you can iron the mark away, and those are a really good option as well. Another thing, obviously we need thread. We need some thread. Now for your thread, I would just get a basic black spool of thread and a basic white spool of thread. This is all you really need when you're first starting. But I would get a bigger spool of thread. So these are the colors you're going to use most of the time anyway. This one is 135 yards. I will get the 500 yards, the bigger spools of thread, just because they'll last you longer. I don't know what this one is. I think this one was 250 yards, but it'll last you longer. So I would just get those. And you want to get all-purpose thread because all-purpose will work with both stretch fabrics and non-stretch fabrics. Your non-stretch fabrics are your woven fabrics, and your stretch fabrics are your knit fabrics, because the fabric is knitted together, and that's what they're knitted together with elastic, and that's why they're stretchy. So a black and white spool of thread, I'm gonna add that. I would also get, as a beginner, let's see what else I would add. Okay, for the purpose of pattern making, I have or pattern alterations. I'd get me a just basic roll of tape, because I find that I have to correct my patterns sometimes, or I might rip it. It might be a rip in the pattern, so a good roll of tape. And also, I can't forget the tracing wheel. You want a basic tracing wheel with tracing paper. Now, I had some actual tracing paper, which I don't know what I did with it. I bought some. Don't know what happened to it. So that's why I had to make my own makeshift tracing paper. But you can buy tracing paper and tracing wheel. And these are very inexpensive. Both are pretty inexpensive. I would get them online. Going in Walmart, they may or may not have them. I think you can also go to like Hobby Lobby and stuff. But Wawak.com. WAWAK.com. They have all the sewing supplies you will need. Ollie, you can have them. And I guess if I want to add also just some basic machine needles, your universal needles. But I would get the universal needles, and I would also get a set of jersey needles. And these will be for your stretch fabrics. The jersey needles work for the jersey fabrics, and the universal work for our more stable knit fabrics like double knit, or gosh, what is it, Ponte knit, things like that, scuba, but also your woven non-stretch fabrics. Why hold on one moment, he was being bad. Trying to bite my sewing box. I would move it up so I could show you the offender, but no. I'll just focus. Ollie, what are you doing? You know, when you have pets, how when you're trying to do something, and then that be the time that they got to come and bother stuff. Yeah, it'd be like that. But anyway, these two sets of needles, though, I would say also it would be good to get these stretch needles as well. These needles will work for stretch fabrics like ITY knits. Those really, really stretchy knits like that, you have to use a stretch needle. These are perfect for that. And they're very high spandex stretch fabrics. ITY knits are. So having a needle like this is the only way you're going to be able to sew them, unless you have a serger. And we'll get into that in another video. But yeah, I would say get these three. And if you can't get all of them, usually they have these two at the store. And for a beginner, maybe even just the universal needles to work with like some basic woven fabrics, which are the easiest to work with as a beginner. Okay. And then there's a thimble if you're doing any hand sewing, though when I do hand sewing, I don't use it. I personally don't use a thimble. Yeah, and then optional, you could have something to weigh down your paper patterns when you are sewing them down, like something like these. These are just washers that you get from the hardware store, and they just add some weight to your paper patterns, like this. Like the paper pattern tissue. Open it up. As a matter of fact, I have a paper pad already open on my bed. Hold on, hold on. Technical difficulties. Okay, so like this tissue, when you put your like pattern tissue on your fabric, you know, you just sit these on here to keep it from moving around. Of course, you can always just use pins and pin it down to your fabric, but also this is just a help to keep those corners down if you don't really want to do that. Okay, I'm going to get into patterns as well, because I think most of us, we start with the paper patterns. They're not always the most ideal, however, but I'm going to show you how to use them and talk through paper patterns as well. But next, I think another thing you don't have to have, but would be a good idea, is seam clips. If you're not very comfortable with pins and don't want to stick yourself all the time, seam clips are great. These were mainly used for in quilting, but they've become more common for people to use now just in your regular sewing. And there's Milo. Yes, there's two of them. Ollie, what you doing over there? Anyway, yeah, so there's that. And I think that's pretty much it that I would recommend for a very basic kit. So let's put it together. And yeah, before I forget, another thing I think you should have, a good ruler, a good size ruler. This is a 3x18 ruler, a clear ruler that is, you should have. And also a yard or meter ruler would be a good addition if you want to, you know, do like pattern making or anything like that. But for a beginner, I think this is pretty good. I think that's the only thing that I forgot. I think that's about it. But yes, let's put this all in here. So you can even just take a cute little zipper pouch like this, and you can just use this to have your little sewing kit. So you don't have to have a sewing box like the one I have. By the way, I got this one from Family Dollar as well. I'm sure they have these at Family Dollar, Dollar Tree, Walmart. No, I'm not going to leave everything like this. Just showing you it'll fit. Got some tape. Got a tracing wheel. Put another one of those in there. And our other thing. It would probably fit better if I didn't like squash it all in here like this. Oh, I was trying to put two tapes in there. Oh Lord. I forgot I had one in each. One in each one. And then our other thread. It's going to be a little jam-packed in here, but it should fit. Let's see. Yep, there it goes. So, yeah, this could be your very own sewing kit. You can make that pretty easily, and you'll just have your rulers on the side. But this is all you need to have your basic sewing kit. You got your thread, your needles, your sewing needles, and everything all in here. Now, sewing machines. That's another topic, right? Because we need a sewing machine to go along with this. And I'm going to talk about that in the next video. I'm going to get right on that. And I'm going to show you what type of sewing machine you as a beginner sewer might want. And I'm also going to show you my sewing machines. Though I don't think I'm taking the other one back out of the box, okay? I have 3 sewing machines. I'll give you a little bit of a preview real quick. Okay, this is a little preview of my sewing machines. I'm gonna go through them with you next time. Here's my serger, and here is my Juki. I have the HCL DX5. It says DX7 on the box, but it's a DX5. So yeah, I'm gonna show you in depth that, but it's looking a hot mess over here right now. So yeah, this is a basket on top with fabric and clothes. It's just a little bit messy over here. But yeah, hopefully this video helped somebody, and you can put together a really nice kit for yourself. It shouldn't be too expensive to put together either. Now, if you looked at the last video I had on here, I also talked about the sewing kit. This is kind of a redo of that. But this is showing you more in depth how you can, make your own. But again, the website that I suggest you go to is waywack.com. Waywack.com. Waywack has all your notions and things that you're going to need from there. So I suggest going on there, and you can find pretty much everything. You can also look on Amazon, of course, if you want to. Yeah, but Waywack is like the one that I would go to. That's where I found a lot of things from, and it's like a one-stop shop. So yeah, check them out. And I'll see you in the next one, and we can talk sewing machines.